Hello, friends. I'm Doug Terrell. It's Friday, the 27th day of August, 2021. The Goths, or specifically a group called the Visigoths, have spent the last 3 days sacking Rome in the year 410. This is one of several events where groups from Central Europe will successfully attack Rome. The Roman Empire was finished as a military power and at the mercy of much lesser bands of warriors. The Goths were from an area of present-day Romania, northwest of the Black Sea. And do not confuse Rome with Romania. Romania is an Eastern European country, more known for the Roma people, or better known as Gypsies. The Goths, at one point friendly to Rome, decided to extend their domain from the Black Sea along the Mediterranean coast to the regions of France, Spain, and Portugal. 1637, Charles Calvert, 3rd Baron of Baltimore, is born in England. He and his family will hold the charter to the Maryland colony. Sparked in part by the success of the Americans, the various factions are mixing it up in the summer and fall of 1798 in Ireland. The affair was started in part by the Ulster Scots, who had been imported from the borderlands between Scotland and England. An unruly bunch that the British hoped would quiet down the pesky Irish. So they were promised lands in Ireland, but the British didn't treat them too well, and the Irish disdained them as well. And being mostly Presbyterian, they were not Catholic nor Church of England. On this day, the French jump into the fray at the Battle of Castlebar, where the British suffer a temporary loss. One result is a French puppet republic of Connacht is formed. Edward Beecher is born in 1803, a minister who started one of the first abolition societies in Illinois. He is also the brother of Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin. The Black Hawk Wars come to an end in 1838 when Black Hawk surrenders. He was akin to a military general of the Sauk tribe. He was a warrior chief, but not a civil chief. There are a few points in history one has to wonder about if European and Native relations could have been handled in a way that would have worked for both groups. In some cases, they did work out quite well for both parties. In others, they did not. In retrospect, we forget the natives were humans, and they had their own politics and tribal wars. We often think of the Indian brave or warrior, and this was part of the culture of some of the tribes. They were fighting someone prior to the Europeans. Conversely, while there was some level of civilization, by and large, the North American groups had not been influenced by the Mesoamerican civilizations. Most North American tribes were not far developed beyond the Stone Age. There is no archaeological evidence of any form of smelting or advanced metalworking. Now introduce a more advanced group of people, and what happened, while sad, would have been extremely hard to prevent, especially given the Europeans' imperial mindset of the day. And even the Europeans had no evidence or clue of disease cause or transmission. It's hard to cast fault. Colonel Edwin Drake is the promoter of a first successful oil well completed on this day in 1859 near the northwestern Pennsylvania town of Titusville. The region had been known for oil seeps, and the material was collected in small and contaminated amounts. Drake, the colonel title was ceremonial, was sent by a group of investors to find a more productive method to collect the crude oil. He got the idea to hire a well driller to attempt to strike oil. One story goes that the driller was having issues with the well collapsing. Drake, sitting on a log despondent at the ongoing failure and lack of new ideas, with top hat in hand, envisions the idea of driving a metal casing to bedrock and drilling down deeper through the casing. The idea worked, and Titusville quickly became the first oil boom town. Charles Rolls is born in 1877. He is the co-founder of Rolls-Royce International, the automaker and builder of aircraft engines. 36th President Lyndon Baines Johnson is born in 1908. It's hard to imagine scenes of the Australian outback or an African safari without a Land Rover. The Rover line was co-designed by Gordon Bashford, who was born in 1916. International politics are tricky business. They attempt to massage extremely different cultures to the mutual benefit of all parties. 1918 things have been volatile in Mexico for years, but along the border with the U.S., things are relatively placid. In the border towns of Nogales, which has an Arizona and Mexican sections, The border is a wide boulevard where folks from both sides seem to freely come and go. With World War I looming, tensions get tighter. The U.S. is looking towards Europe and the potential need to go into a war posture. Mexico is in rough shape due to the ongoing Mexican Revolution, and border citizens on both sides rely on the trade. The U.S. looks to tighten its border and slow the flow of food and supplies south in the idea they may be needed at home if we go to war. Then there is multiple reports that Germans are on the border trying to distract us from Europe. The result is the Battle of Ambro Nogales, or both Nogales. It is really just a short skirmish and is the only battle of World War I fought in North America. Actor Leo Penn is born in 1921. Penn was the director of a string of television shows in the 70s. He is also the father of actor Sean Penn. Daryl Dragon is born in 1942. Unless you were really good with 70s music trivia, it is doubtful you would recognize the name. But for certain you have heard of his wife, Toni Tennille. Dragon was the captain. Bassist and backup singer for the supergroup Alabama, Jeff Cook is 72 today. Cook has had a bit of success as a solo artist, but remains close to Alabama and his cousins Randy Owen and Teddy Gentry. The first edition of the Guinness Book of Records is published in 1955. 1979, the Irish and British are still going at it, but on this day things take a nasty turn. The Irish Republican Army sets off a bomb that kills Lord Mountbatten and 3 others on his boat. Mountbatten was an uncle to Prince Philip, a distant cousin to the Queen, and a mentor to Prince Charles. 1991, as the Soviet Union is imploding, the Eastern Bloc is flying apart. The European community recognizes the Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, while their neighbor Moldova declares its independence. Earth and her neighbors rotate about the sun at different rates. A year on Mars, for example, is 687 days, almost 2 Earth years. So sometimes planets are closer to each other than at other times. In 2003, Mars and Earth are the closest they have been in maybe 60,000 years, a mere 34.6 million miles away. And that's History and Comments for Friday, the 27th of August. I'm Doug Terrell. Now go do something worth remembering.